this is the second part of our top 50 list. So these are games 40 to 30. Again, there is no particular order, maybe towards the end maybe, but you know, this is all good stuff. It's all stuff you should play. Anyway, preamble aside, let's kick right on with the rest of the list. So, next up is Firefly from Gale Force 9. It's a pick up and deliver game. It's based on the Firefly series, which I loved. I thought it was really cracking. It got cancelled too early. We had the movie. But yes, of Gale Force 9's Firefly stuff, this is great. It is a long game. It is, if you like Firefly and you're a real big fan of Firefly and you like the idea of pick up and deliver, you'll probably love this. And all the expansions expand the game to a ridiculous table heaving size, at which point in time it takes all evening to play. However, I don't play it regularly, but when we do get together and play a Firefly game, we have a lovely Firefly game. Let's be clear, if you don't like Firefly, you don't like really long games, and you don't like pick up and deliver, you're going to fucking hate this. But I quite like it. Next up is The Bloody Inn, just because it's just a cool little game mechanism of you hoteliers in France in the 1600s or something, where you were basically murdering the guests. They come in, very Sweeney Todd, they came in, you murder them, and you got to try and bury them. The whole point of the game is you're all hoteliers in this one hotel, all murderers, bastards, one and all. And what you're trying to do is as guests come in, you're essentially trying to knock them off, and then you can turn them into, bury them under buildings and stuff before the police come into the things. It's done as weird card based, it's multi-use cards, really kind of cool Baroque sort of grand kind of that gory sort of art. It's not bloody, but it's just kind of something about it. The aesthetic is good. Like the theming, love the story behind it. The game is kind of cool as well. It's just really cool, macabre kind of game. Like that, like a bit of that. Speaking of macabre sort of games, there is Mansions of Madness 2nd edition. Never played the first, but I hear it was a slog because the person playing the GM, essentially, they got something slightly wrong. The entire game was unplayable. So this is replaced by an app. I don't have an issue with an app, and I think probably of all the app board game implementations, this is one of the best ones. It's very smooth, and I like this. It's puzzles and it's a storytelling game, and it kind of evolves as you play. There's tons of expansions out for it. It isn't that cheap, but the base set has a fair bit of value in it. But I do enjoy, there's a lot of game there to play. If you get into it and delve down into the expansions, there's a couple of good ones in there. And I kind of like what it's doing. I do like this, one of the cool sort of mythos games, and I like the whole Scooby-Doo kind of sneaking around in the worlds and everything kind of randomly going tits up on you. It's a nice mix. It does it very well. Next up is Downforce from Restoration Games. This is a reprint of Wolfgang Kramer's earlier racing. I think I played as a kid. Essential idea is it's a racing game. It's kind of like Mario Kart as a board game, kind of. You start the round to get a hand of cards. You make bets on cars at the start by using the cards you've got in your hand, which all have different coloured vehicles and how far they move. They're your deck for the game. So you're trying to buy one of the cars you have most colours for. And then in the second part of the game, the main part of the game is you're racing, playing these cards to move the cars around, and all different ones will move depending on how many cars are on the card that you've played. And that's it. There's been a couple of expansions. There's different tracks mainly, just mix up the rules, there's special powers for the drivers. It's very straightforward. It's very easy. It's clean and clear sort of aesthetic to the game. It's fun. I enjoy it. It's very light. It's teachable in no period of time at all. You can play it as an end game sort of thing we often do. If there's a filler, you can play it about half hour. And it really is just a lot of fun to play with the kids. Non-gamers can really get into this because essentially it's kind of a mass market game, but that's from many years ago, repolished up. Do love what Restoration Games are doing. They've brought up some stuff from the archives and polished and buffed them up rather nicely. I'm looking forward to what else they do. But yes, Downforce, really good, highly recommended. Next up is Snowdonia. It's from that our dear great uncle Mr. Tony Boydell, grumpy malcontent that he is. This is essentially probably his finest hour. He's done other stuff. Snowdonia is one that's kind of kept going. Real simple idea is the base game of Snowdonia, and there's countless multiple expansions, including the Master Set, which has got everything in it, more or less. Anyway, you're basically building a train track up to Snowdon Mountain, and it's done with worker placements. But a really cool mechanism is there's cards around the board which kind of randomised draw as to the track you've got to build. And essentially he is kind of blossomed out into multiple different expansions, taking that basic rules and changing everything's modular essentially. You can take the cards off, so it changes the game every time you play, and there is countless expansions. I've not played them all. I've played very few of them. The base Snowdonia game is a really solid, simple but fun and fast worker placement game. Theming's kind of cool as well. It's unique in its own way. But yeah, I dig it. I do dig it. It's cool. It's a reason why it's spoken of in Hush Whispers as being something quite cool, because it's a simple but fun, good worker placement. Following on from that, we've got Nothing Personal, and now this is kind of like a reskin of KGB, I think it was, no, Kremlin. Nothing Personal rethemes it as gangsters. It was Vassal was involved. Essentially, basically, he didn't really design this. He's taken a previous older game, he's done what Restoration did, polished it much polishment, tweaked bits and pieces of it, essentially give it the gangster splash over the top. I like the art design on it. I'd always like the art. It was fantastic on it. Production quality in the first printing, certainly, and I don't know about the second, was astounding. Like proper ring, real chunky bits of chits and stuff. All good, really good stuff in there. The rule book was a bit of a mess. And it's not an easy teach, but if you get a game, it is vicious. It's horrible, it's vicious. I love it. You can do all sorts of manner of horrifically backstabbery, shitty things to each other, and the theming and all that really fits. And for that alone, it's a cracking game. I know it's now been a second printing of it. I don't know, but I mean, anyway, there was expansions, but the base game is solid game. Really enjoyed that. Libertalia is next. It's Pirates. It's a card game. It's a game that baffles me why it's not thought of in higher regard. You don't see it turning up a lot, and it's hard to track down. I think it's now out of print again. It's a real simple idea. You are pirates on a pirate ship. You all start with identical decks of cards, outdrawn from a larger deck. In the first round of the game, you're playing the cards out. At the end of that, more cards. Again, everyone gets an identical hand of cards from this deck. But what cards you've kept in the first round may be different for everyone else, and they all have different powers and abilities, and it's kind of like an on-the-fly deck building game. It sounds far more complex than it is. It's very straightforward. It looks really cool. It's pirates. It's got some really good ideas in there. Why there's never got an expansion, why this isn't more thought of, I don't know. It's something that kind of almost is begging for a reprint and a polish up and something, because it's a cracking game. If you can find Libertalia, I honestly recommend it. It plays up to about 6, and all player counts is really cool, but it's such a solid design, really clever. Yeah, it's good stuff. Go and find that. Next up, Black Orchestra. Who wouldn't want a game where they get to assassinate Hitler? I mean, I ask you, how much better of a theme is that? So yeah, based on the I nearly said Otto von Bismarck. Tom Cruise in the movie was that going. Vic Toffen, there he's the Red Baron. The dude with the eye patch. Anyway, he was a German general who basically tried to blow von Stauffenberg. That's the guy. He essentially tried to blow Hitler up with a bomb in a suitcase. The game of Black Orchestra essentially puts you as some traitorous generals or Germans of some type, and you're set trying to assassinate Hitler as he moves around the board. It's a cooperative game. Really looks nice. It's a gorgeous production, and yeah, you're essentially trying to get the plot together to take Hitler out, and there's lots of dice rolls in it. It's tense, but God, if you pull it off, it's fantastically satisfying. Brilliant. I can't wait for the Trump reprint. But yeah, Black Orchestra, it's a great theme, really well done. It's a great idea. I love it, and who doesn't want to blow up Nazis? So yeah, well worth grabbing. Imperial Settlers is next. Portal Games, early dawn. It was their follow-on from 51st State, which subsequently got reprinted. But anyway, Imperial Settlers. It's an engine building game. It's card-based. There's a bunch of expansions to it. Not all of them I own. And they've since brought out a campaign setting for it again, which sounds kind of cool. But I haven't even played that. I still like it. As a kind of really cool card-based engine generator with a bit of a Civ feel to it, it's a great game. It can play long, but for a couple of you playing it, it's a really solid entertaining game. It's a good one. It's a good one. It's one of Portal's finest. It comes highly recommended. I did like the Invaders from the North. They did a kind of like a second edition almost of Imperial Settlers, kind of polished it up and reduced some of the clutter. I've played that and it wasn't bad. I don't own it. Maybe one day, but Imperial Settlers does what it does in its little corner of the universe for me that I enjoy, and I love the art and design aesthetic. It looks really cool. Imperial Settlers, oldie but a goldie. And finally, in this top list is going to be another one from Portal. Actually, it's Detective Modern Crime. I played this at Expo a couple of years ago. I was blown away by it. We sat in a room with Ignacy, and there's a bunch of other reviewery types. Penn Muddox was there. What a lovely man he is. But we were all there and we played it and we were blown away. I thought it was amazing. I subsequently played that when I've seen it. And again, I think it is an incredible game. There is problems in it in that some of the especially the first edition, and there is subsequently a season 1, which I've got and I still haven't had a chance to review, and I will do. But the original version, there was some really bizarre, clunky writing in it. Some of it was translation problems, lost in translation. But yeah, some of it was a bit overwrought. It was a little bit kind of an airport novel type level of writing. It wasn't great, but the actual core idea of it is fantastic. It puts you into that CSI type environment of you solving that crime, and you feel if you're in there and there's a bunch of like-minded people in there, you're in and you enjoy it. It's a great thematic experience. Just the satisfaction of trying to work it out, and they're not easy to trick, some of them. There's definitely a bit of work in connecting dots that aren't always there initially, and there's a real sense of satisfaction in doing something and solving one of these crimes. It feels like you're solving a crime, which I love thematic games that kind of ooze you into it and you. But yeah, Detective Modern Crime, really great. One of Portal's much better releases of later years. They had a bit of a slump, but this was taking them back onto the market. There's a bunch of expansions I haven't played yet for it, a bunch of other cases, and so I'm kind of saving it because it's like, well, I'll get round to that eventually. It's a really great experience. Detective Modern Crime from Portal. This detective game for Portal. Right, that's it. That's another 10 knocked off the list. Wonderful. How fantastic. I feel a sense of almost warm satisfaction, or I may have just pissed myself. I don't know. Thank you. I'll catch you again soon. Ta-ta.